Yes, West Ham Network, it's Holly, and today we are going to be chatting through a particular aspect of our game which has been costing us, as well as looking at how this actually compares to our Premier League opponents. So, just as a brief recap, in our 11 games, we've conceded 19 goals, and a massive part of this has been the lack of pressure that we put on our opposition. And something we've done far too often is just stand off and allow teams to pass around or to get a shot away. And most of the time, this has ended up costing us. Now, a company called Huddle Stats Bomb, they have done an analysis of the amount of pressure that each Premier League team puts on their opponents, basing this on the distance to the nearest defending player when the opposition receive a pass from their teammates. So essentially, how close you are to the opposition when they get the ball. Now, they've compared this to the average distance for each area of the pitch based on the whole Premier League, with the darkest red colour that you're about to see in a second. In fact, let me show you here now. With the darkest red colour showing that they allow less space all the way through to the darkest blue. See the key at the bottom there, meaning that that team gives the most space. So as you can see in this picture, here is West Ham. And simply put, we give other teams a lot of space. And this is something that we've seen in plenty of games this season. Something I actually spotted at the Everton game was that Kilman and Todibo are often quite close, and then they're leaving Wan-Bissaka to drop in more centrally, which left this huge gap out on the wing for the opposition players to exploit. But as you can see in this diagram, it isn't just there that we're allowing too much space. It's basically all over the pitch. The area we're actually, ironically, best at closing down is pretty much where Antonio plays, interestingly. But the question is, how does this compare to other clubs? So I gave you a little glimpse of it, but let's take a proper look. As you can see, top left and centre in the bottom row, Bournemouth and Spurs are best at pressing all over the pitch. Wouldn't have expected it from Bournemouth, but there we go. But one of the things, the biggest things actually to point out is that when you look at the teams that have the most blue there, which means we're not doing very well, and the least red, Wolves, Southampton, and Ipswich, alongside us, are the only teams to not have a single dark red area of the pitch, meaning there is nowhere on that pitch that we give significantly less space to attackers than the average does. So, aside from us, you look at those teams, they're the teams that are 17th, 19th, and 20th. So, essentially, we're overperforming given the amount of time that we're giving opponents. And it's a little bit of a worrying stat. We've seen it in previous seasons when stats wise we are underperforming for our league position, but usually this does directly impact how many points most teams pick up. And it's something that we've definitely got to fix to turn our season around, because standing off players is not the one. Simply put, it's just going to mean that we invite pressure onto ourselves, and as we've seen, we don't always have the split second decision making to avoid us getting second yellows, getting red cards, conceding goals. So we need to definitely try and fix this and put a stop to it. I'm sure it is something that Lopetegui is aware of. The question is how we actually make that happen. But also, this brings me on to a slightly bigger point today. And it's not just closing down that we need to improve at West Ham, but our movement in general, because we play best when we move to get the ball and we create options in possession. This is when we were playing so well. We had fluid football. Everyone was moving. We caught players off guard. We could play on the break. At the moment, it doesn't really feel like we're even able to do that, because as soon as we actually do get the ball, we're either hoofing it up because there's no options, or we're just static. We just stand behind the players that are defending against us. So we're making it extra hard for ourselves, probably because we're blowing, because we've just been running around absolutely everywhere and not managing to get the ball off them. But it's definitely something that needs fixing, because there's been a distinct lack of movement off the ball, which makes it impossible for us to do anything with the possession that we do get, which then makes us hoof the ball up the pitch, and then obviously it just comes back at us. And it's something that we've seen in recent games where we can't really control the tempo of the game, because all we end up doing is basically attack v defense at certain points, where we're just trying to get the ball up the pitch because there's no options short, and we don't want to pass it and mess up too close to our own goal. And then their defenders start bringing it back towards us. So it's not where we want to be as a team. I've got to say, I find this graph really interesting, because we often find ourselves getting frustrated at how easily we're letting players break through our lines or get a shot to our own goal. But when you actually look at how many areas on this pitch here that we're allowing people to comfortably play in, it's no wonder that we're spotting this trend. And bear in mind, this is compared to the average of the Premier League teams. So the dark blue, we are massively underperforming compared to the average. Not the top six, not the best teams, not certain teams. the average. And in the Premier League, there are some bang average teams in there that we really want to be competing with. And this is a bigger part because obviously we've been wanting to step up where we're playing in comparison, and we've wanted to take it up to the next level and really compete and try and get those European spots. So if you want those European spots, you need to be in the top 6, 7, 8 spots at least. And for us to be doing that, you need to be essentially overperforming based on the average. And as you can see, we are literally, the light red is the only place where we are slightly overperforming. The slightly darker red is slightly more overperforming, but there are no areas that we're really, really excelling. And I think that says a lot, because when you look at these teams here, we have got teams like Leicester that are managing to do better than us, especially on one wing. We've got teams like Bournemouth. You can see how quickly they're closing down, especially around the centre of the park there. Even teams like Brighton that haven't always been doing particularly well at the moment, there are many areas where they are giving less space to the opposition than in other places. So it is definitely a worrying trend, because if we want to be taking it up to the next level, we can't be letting things like this slide. There are times where you can overperform and get away with one where, for example, we got results, we didn't have much possession. Usually you'd look at the possession stats and that would be directly related pretty much to how many points the team was picking up. But we did seem to defy the odds with that, where we could play on the break and snatch goals. But when you're giving this tiny amount of actual pressure on the opposition, you just make it comfortable for them. And I think that's the biggest gripe that I have at the moment, is that we are making games comfortable for our opponents, and that's something we don't want to be doing. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Are you surprised to see this, or is this what you expected to see? I can't say I'm massively surprised that we're not closing down enough. I am surprised to what extent it is, and to see that there's only 3 teams that are in a similar position in terms of this with us, and obviously they are strong relegation candidates. I know I've been saying for a while that unless we pick something up, we could be in for a relegation battle. But things like this obviously cement that something's got to change for us to not get lucky and not end up down there with those teams that are doing the exact same things, the lack of pressure. So there we go. That's today's chat. But join me at 5 p.m. I'm going to be running you through your Hammers headlines for today. I hope you have an amazing day. It's chilly out there, but it's sunny, so enjoy. And until next time, also give this video a thumbs up if you haven't already, and make sure you subscribe. Have a great day. Come on, you Irons.